Hey, good morning, guys. How are you today? Today we're talking about healing your relationship with food and how to stop eating your feelings. So I'm Kelsie Michaud, health and life coach, and I help people who struggle with emotional eating so that they can actually gain control over emotional eating and just feel healthy and confident in themselves and the choices that they make. So I actually have 3 top tips that I want to help you to change your relationship with food today so that you are actually feeding your hunger and not your emotions. So hi Gianna, thanks for coming on. Good morning. So think of it this way. Imagine if it were just as simple as putting gas in your car, right? You'd fill up only when the gas light comes on. But we know that's not possible, in reality. So for a lot of us, eating is anything but just straightforward. Eating is actually a biological necessity, and we need food to live, right? It's a fact. We need food to live. We need food for fuel. It gives us energy and it helps us go on throughout our days. But sometimes our emotions will get in the way. And then the thoughts start going, right? And then we have, there's these memories and our rituals. And food somehow has this crazy ability to just take on like all kinds of meanings for us. So it could be for punishment, it could be to celebrate something, or even an obligation you might have. So it takes on all of these different meanings. So it could also depend on even like your own mood, depending what kind of mood you're in, or you may end up overeating or undereating. It can go one of 2 ways. So it just depends. It just depends on even how, from day to day, how you're feeling at the time. Hey Lynn, how are you? Thanks for coming on. But with all of that, this means that it's time to rethink your relationship with food, okay? So think about it right now. Think about like what kind of relationship do you have with food? What kind of thoughts or inner like self-talk do you have that happens with yourself right now when you think about food, or when you think about when you get hungry? So the first thing that I want you to actually do is reconnect with your hunger, okay? So there's so many things that actually drive us to eat. It's, like for example, it's noontime, so that means lunchtime, right? That's what we've grown up with. Or maybe it's midnight. Maybe you're a little snacker, nighttime snacker. It's midnight means that it's time for a snack. Or maybe we're just feeling happy. I'm a happy eater for sure. Maybe we're feeling a little anxious, or maybe we'd rather just bring home our leftovers, or maybe we're just too polite to say no sometimes. Maybe we're just bored. Or maybe you're at work and somebody brought in donuts. Okay, and then all of a sudden you have that inner self-talk going on in your head, and what is it saying? What is it saying to you? When you have that inner self-talk going on, I'm curious, what would that be saying to you right now? Especially if you walked into a room and there's a table of donuts and pastries, and you're like, I know my self-talk would be like, I want to be good, but these look really good. I really want one, but I probably shouldn't. Well, that's what my inner self-talk used to say. That's how I used to be, and not anymore. Totally not anymore. It's a whole different game changer since I have discovered intuitive eating and making peace with food. Okay, so some of these tips I'm sharing with you can help with this today. So it's also possible that you can go in the other direction, where we can actually suppress our appetite, which can also be for many reasons as well. Just like there's so many reasons that why we feel hungry or why we feel the need to eat. Okay, sometimes our hunger gets suppressed because we just get too busy. Have you ever been sitting at the computer and you're working? I know this happens to me sometimes quite frequently, and I'm just working away, I'm typing away, and I'm like, okay, I'm starting to feel a little hungry. I should probably eat now because I want to honor my hunger, because I don't want to get too far past my hunger and start to get ravenous. But sometimes I just get so into what I'm doing that I don't want to stop, and I just keep going, and I want to get my work done. And then it's like an hour or 2 later, and sometimes at that point, my hunger's actually passed. So sometimes we just get too busy. Sometimes we're sad. I know when I get sad, I lose my appetite. So it can go one of 2 ways. It can go either way. Some people, that causes them to want to emotionally eat, where I'm emotional in the way where it makes me lose my hunger. So everybody's different. You could be mad or upset, or maybe nobody else is eating too. You go somewhere and no one else is eating, so you feel funny if you eat too. So you're like, yeah, no, I'm not gonna have anything. I'm good. Or maybe it's just too early in the morning, or maybe you're feeling like it's too late at night, or maybe you're a little excited about something. There's so many different reasons of why we feel the need to eat, and then why we feel like we really don't want to eat. So what you really want to do here is eat only when you're hungry, and then stop when you're full. And I know you're like, yeah, okay, that sounds pretty obvious. You know, it sounds like a super simple concept here, but think about it. How many times did you eat this past week, or even last week, now that we're starting a new week? How many times did you eat last week when you weren't hungry? Okay, this is where a lot of people get tripped up. This is where I have to coach my clients quite a bit. Sometimes we spend quite a bit on this of honoring like your hunger and your fullness, and understanding and listening to your own body cues and how you actually feel when you're hungry, when you're feeling true hunger, and when to actually stop when you're getting to fullness and satiated but not overly stuffed. Okay, so what you could do is, and I do this with my clients and I hold them accountable to this, think about your hunger and fullness on a scale. Okay, we're gonna put it on a hunger fullness scale, and it's just a simple 1 to 10 scale. And 1 to 2 is where you're starting to feel hungry. Okay, you're starting to feel those hunger pains, however you might feel them. Everybody's different how they feel them. You get that stomach growling. Some people might get a headache. Some people might get a little fatigued. Sometimes I feel like a little sluggish, like, yeah, I can tell my energy is getting drained. It's time to refuel. I need to eat again. Or I'll feel it in the back of my throat. These are all different ways that we can feel hunger, or notice that our hunger is coming on. Our bodies are sending us those cues. It's for survival. Hey, Angie, how are you? Good morning. So when you get to like a 1 or 2, like, yeah, I'm just starting to feel a little hungry, it's time to eat. Okay, not a half an hour from when you're feeling that, not an hour from when you're feeling that. Right then, it's time to plan for food. Okay, because if you don't, like, we all know what happens when we get past just initial hunger. Okay, we get a little ravenous or hangry, and that's when we're more likely to not make as good a choices as we might have if we're just starting to feel a little hungry, or we're going to tend to overeat. Okay, so with feeling your fullness, now we go up the scale, and you want to stop at like a 7-ish. Okay, and that's where you want to be eating until you're comfortably full. You don't want to be painfully stuffed. If you get to like a 9 or a 10, then you're like, I ate too much. I don't feel so good. I feel a little sick. Why did I do that? Why did I eat all that? You're like, you want to unbutton your pants. You're like, I totally overdid it. Why did I do that? You don't want to get to that point, okay? We want to help stop you, bring it back before you even get there, okay? You want to stop at like that 7 on the scale. So the reason you shouldn't wait until you're starving, like I said, is because that's when you're more likely to not make the best decisions or to overeat. Or even, like, have you ever gone to the grocery store? Have you ever gone grocery shopping when you're totally ravenous and you probably didn't fill up your cart with all this kind of good, nourishing, like produce types of foods? You probably gravitated toward the higher caloric type items, especially when you're just feeling that hunger. So that's why it's so important to honor that hunger and eat and plan for food when you're feeling hungry, before you let it get past that. You don't want to get to that ravenous hangry, because that's when it all kind of starts to fall apart. Hi, Anthony, how are you? Good morning. So it's also better to eat when you're first hungry, because you're more likely to enjoy your food and you're more likely to eat mindfully. Okay, because when you let yourself get too hungry, chances are what happens is that you end up eating really fast. When you're really hungry, you're just like, oh, I'm ravenous, I'm so hungry, I just got to put this food in my mouth. I love it, let's just eat. You're going to eat so fast, and you really want to slow down, because you're not paying attention either. You're really not paying attention to your food when you're ravenous and you're so hungry and you're shoving the food in your mouth. There's no mindfulness going on there, okay? And believe it or not, one of the biggest predictors of overeating is letting yourself get too hungry in the first place. Okay, so that's why it's so important to honor that hunger. It sounds super simple. it's a lot of people get tripped up here. Some people don't even know what true hunger feels like. Some people don't know how they feel when they're hungry. That's why it's so important to tune back into your body, because you know what? We were all born as intuitive eaters. Okay, and along the way, as we grew up, we got away from that. As I mentioned, just from like the clock, it's 12 o'clock, it's lunchtime. We've grown up with that. Whether you're hungry or not, noon, it's lunch, you eat, right? So instead of the noontime clock coming around and you think, okay, lunchtime, well, at that point you think, okay, well, am I hungry? Am I even hungry? Why would I be eating right now if I'm not hungry? You want to wait until you're feeling that hunger and then nourish your body. Okay, same thing with, like I said, we grew up, we were born intuitive eaters. A baby will cry when it's hungry. The baby will let you know when it's hungry. The baby will stop when it's full. Push the bottle away, maybe push the plate away. My 3-year-old will tell me when she's full, because that's just, it's in her. That's what's natural, how we're born. We're born with that intuition, okay? And I don't force her to continue to eat what's on her plate, because that's going to instill those diet rules in her, okay? If she's truly full, and I know a 3-year-old can, be a little tricky sometimes, but if I know she's truly full, then okay, I'm not gonna force her. Okay, we'll stop, we'll wrap it up. All right, you can have it later, you can have it tomorrow. Somebody will eat it, it's leftovers, no big deal. Okay, I'm not gonna force her to eat past that fullness. And that's what a lot of us have grown up with. So that's where I come in and I teach my clients to navigate through all of that and get back to listening to your body and listening to your own intuition and how your body's truly feeling, and honoring all those cues and signals it's sending to you, because it's sending them. Sometimes we just ignore them or we just override them. Okay, so it's important to get back to that. And number 2, I want you to give your body what it's really craving, okay? So let's look back at your relationship with food. And does it look like you're either dieting or you're binging? One or the other. You're either doing, the thing about a diet. Like when you're on a diet, that's the mentality of, okay, the diet told me what to eat, right? Whereas on a binge, it's more like you eat whatever is convenient, and you go all out on foods, but you're going all out on foods that are considered forbidden when you're on the diet, right? That's what they do to you. That's what it does to your thinking. So, I mean, does that sound familiar to you? Have you dealt with this? I know I've dealt with it myself, with the restricting and then the binging, because as soon as you tell yourself you can't have something, you just want it. That's how we're made. So we want it more. So I'm curious if this is resonating for you. Let me know in the comments if this is something that it's made you, how it's made you feel in the past when you're on a diet, or if you feel like you've been restricted before, and how did that make you feel? Okay, or maybe you're currently on a diet and you feel restricted around certain foods. All right, I've restricted for many years, and it's no fun. It's not a fun way to live. It's not a fun way. It's not healthy. It's not healthy mentally or physically to live in that world of restriction. And getting to this intuitive eating, learning the ways of intuitive eating, the 10 principles, and living through them. What a game changer. What a game changer. Yes, absolutely. I would love to tell you all of the ways to eat intuitively and to teach you this, which is exactly what I do with my clients. And the weight has just been lifted off my own shoulders just from eating intuitively now. And I wish I had discovered it sooner. And I absolutely love it. I don't have to count anything. I don't have to weigh anything. I don't have to measure anything. It's wonderful. And, and I'm still honoring my hunger and my fullness. And I don't have that diet mentality. And I'm reaching my goals. I'm maintaining my goals. And I'm still giving my body lots of good nourishing foods while enjoying maybe some other like treat type foods that we may call them, but not off limits. Okay, not good or bad. None of that. Getting rid of all that language and not thinking that way anymore. Okay, so being able to develop a relationship with food, or a healthy relationship with food, stepping out of those old patterns, stepping out of those diet patterns, and instead of listening to like all these other opinions and diets of what you should eat, or instead, let's listen to our own body. Tune into your own body and give it what it is truly craving. Okay, so it may turn out that you aren't even craving the junk food, because once you can have it all the time, it's just another food. You may even actually start tasting things for the first time, because you won't be filled with those voices of judgment and guilt, okay? And I can attest to this because, I know for myself, I actually found that I crave more nurturing and nourishing foods, like, the vegetables and the fruits, things like that. I actually like kale and quinoa. I love it. It's good stuff. And like I said, and if I want to have some chocolate or some ice cream or whatever, it's the same to me as if I'm having something that's, a piece of fruit or some vegetables or something like that. It's all food, okay? So, and another thing I'd like to see you try is to try not to use food as a reward or punishment, okay? I see a lot of people do this quite often. And it's not surprising that we do this, because if you think about it, as children, we learned pretty quickly that celebrating parties and stuff like that, it comes with cake, right? We have cake with parties and celebrations. And while not so good behaviors end up resulting in no cake. But once, one of the things that is so great about being an adult now, is that you can make your own choices, and you can make your own associations with cake or with just food in general, okay? And I believe it is absolutely important to celebrate birthdays with cake, for sure, or have fresh fruit, or have something homemade in a crock pot that you'd like to make. You're an adult. It's your decision. You may have and make what you want and what you prefer. Or celebrate in ways that have nothing to do with food. Okay? It's all up to you. It's your choice, because you are now able to make the rules. So I hope that this was helpful for you. And remember to share if you know someone else who you think might find this helpful. And if you have any questions at all about the content I just covered, or even about intuitive eating, just pop it in the comments for me. I'd love to answer your questions. And if you'd like to talk more privately, you can always PM me. And if you are someone who you feel like you'd like to try intuitive eating, but you're not sure how to go about it, or you're just not sure, you have these questions floating around in your head, please feel free to reach out. I'm happy to answer your questions for you. And if you'd like to dive deeper into your own health and weight goals, I'd love to chat with you about that as well. Hey, Chloe, how are you? So I'm going to hop off if there's no questions right now, but I hope everyone has a beautiful day, and I will talk to you guys soon. Bye, guys.